Hey Bayek, it's me, and in today's video, well, we're going back in time again. It's to 1969 to 1970, First Division football sticker book. There it is, brilliant. This is it, and it's complete as well. It's complete. I've got all the stickers in the collection, and we'll go through it. And the first thing that you've got to say straight away is look who's on this cover. It's George Best, considered one of the greatest players ever. I think that is so true. Sadly, his life ended far too young. He had a lot of alcohol problems, but he was a great player, and it's there's no denying it when you see his skill as a player. He was absolutely fantastic. You can see it's 2 and 6, so that's telling you it's pre-decimal era. And then on the back, we've got 2 players. Now, this one here is Derek Dougan. He was a great player for Wolverhampton Wanderers. He was a Irish international as well. Fantastic player. This one I know is Arsenal player Ian Ure. I don't know if any of you Arsenal fans remember him, but that is Ian Ure. So we'll go through the teams. So the first one is inevitably Arsenal. And Arsenal was such a great team in this era. They were great with my team Leeds and of course Liverpool. Great teams, and they won some great trophies. They were a great team. I don't keep saying it, but it's true. I have to admire them. They were our rivals. Yeah. Now, great players that stand out, of course, are Frank McClintock as the captain, Scottish player, excellent, and Terry Neal, Irish player, brilliant. I think that's Northern Ireland. Pat Rice, again, another one. I think he was Irish. Great players. And here it is, yeah, Bob Wilson. I have to talk about Bob Wilson. What a goalkeeper. What a servant he was to that club. Such a great goalkeeper. This is the era just before those star strikers. Though Peter Storey was a pretty good striker, but once Arsenal got a really good striker, they were off. It was that step upwards that they needed, and they got it. Great. Oh, and how could I forget him? George Graham. George Graham, of course, famous as manager. He was a great player for Arsenal in this era. Arsenal, a team that were just always consistent, but they could have been even greater. And once they got, I think, a really good striker that was able to do the job, they were off. I remember Charlie George, when he came to Arsenal, he was seen as the one who would propel them. But they're always great rivals, as say, with my team, Leeds. And then we've got Burnley. Burnley, they were good, Burnley. They were always, for a small town, producing a good football team, as they are, up and down. And they had some good players. I'm trying to remember who we've got here. Frank Casper. Yeah, Frank Casper. I remember him. He was a very good player. I think that there are a lot of players that were just sort of not outstanding stars. I think Frank Casper was the star of the team. But they did well. You've got to say they were always sort of mid-table, a bit below in the first division. Sometimes, they were a difficult team to beat for a small town. They were really good. Then we've got, of course, Chelsea. Now, Chelsea in this era had some great players, but never were quite able to get the be champions. Yeah, let's put it like that. They had good cup runs, and their players that stand out from this era are Ron Harris, or Chopper Harris as he was known. Chopper Harris, there he is. He was like Norman Hunter at Leeds, hard man. I don't know whether they'd last today in today's game. They'd always be getting sent off. And of course the goalie, Peter Bonetti, great goalie. David Webb as well, another player. I just remember him so much. And they broke my heart when they beat Leeds in the replay in 1917 FA Cup. And their star player, striker, Peter Osgood, he was great. He scored the goals, I know. Yeah. Ian Hutchinson, he had a long throw, I remember that. Absolutely massive throw. Some really good players there. And then we've got Coventry. Coventry were always a fixture of the First Division. They never got relegated. They were always there. And sometimes they had good cup runs. And eventually they did win it, I think. I'm not sure. It could have been in the 1980s or 90s. They did actually get to win a cup. But you can't argue with a team that consistently stays in the top flight, and that's what Coventry did. Yeah. And then Crystal Palace, another team that was a kind of a yo-yo team as well, was up and down from the first to the second division, second to the first division. But they did okay. I'm trying to think of their players here that stand out. I don't know whether there's any outstanding players. I'm just looking. Steve Kember. I think Steve Kember was perhaps their best player. Steve Kember here. Yeah. But yeah, they're still, Crystal Palace are always there and thereabouts. They were hovering between the first and second divisions. And then we've got a team that was to become big. And just after this era, when Brian Clough took over and Peter Taylor, the duo Derby County, because Clough even went on to Nottingham Forest and made them winners. But he had a partnership with Peter Taylor, and Derby County became a fantastic team. In this era, the players we've got that stand out. Dave Mackay, yeah, Scottish Dave Mackay, absolutely fantastic player. And they're the main. Oh, Roy McFarland, yeah, Roy McFarland, another great player, yeah, fantastic. And then we've got Everton. Now it's interesting that they've not got them in the blue that we expect with Everton. That must have been an away kit. Their best players, well, they had a really outstanding, fiery player, a bit like Billy Bremner in many ways, but he was English. Alan Ball. Alan Ball was a small, brilliant player. For England, he was fantastic. And for Everton, he gave everything to Everton. You can't argue with somebody like Alan Ball. So sad as well when he's no longer with us. Great player he was. Just looking, yeah, the other one I want to point out is Joe Royle. Joe Royle, of course, became manager of Everton, but as a player, he was fantastic. Knocked in lots of goals. What a great striker. Then we've got, in Ipswich Town. Well, I always remember Bobby Robson managing him. They were always doing well in the first division, and they had cup runs as well. They were a good team. A lot of people, if they went to Ipswich, if they got a draw, would be really pleased. Would be really pleased to get a draw at Ipswich, because their great rivals were Norwich. But I don't think Norwich are in this. They would have been in the second division, I think, in this era. And then we've got, of course, my team, Leeds United, and of course one of my all-time heroes, Billy Bremner, fiery player, Scottish. Oh, what a player he was! Fantastic. And then, of course, we got Jack Charlton. Jack Charlton, what a player for England as well, with Bobby, his brother. Oh, Jack Charlton, what a catcher. And he became a good manager at Middlesbrough. Fantastic player. And of course, now we just signed this player, Alan Clark, and he was to make the difference for Leeds. We signed him from Leicester City, and he started knocking in the goals. Don Revie, our manager, knew exactly what he was looking for, and the consistent striker, and he got him in Alan Clark, who then was, for Leicester, a massive player for Leicester, but they sold him to us. And the other player at his side was Mick Jones as well. They were our two strikers, really. Fantastic. Yeah, Mick Jones, I know, scored the goal at Wembley when we won the FA Cup. We've only won the FA Cup once. Yeah, and that was in the centenary season. I think that's 1972, I think. Yeah. And then the next year we were at Wembley. I mean, it was embarrassing. Sunderland beat us. Yes. So then we got Liverpool. Liverpool, what a team they were. Liverpool are a fantastic team. Their players, Ian Callaghan, what a player. Let's say Emlyn Hughes. Wow, England player through and through. Great player. He was one of those. And Roger Hunt, another England player, international, fantastic player. Tommy Lawrence was the goalie. And hard men. I'll talk about hard men again in defence. Tommy Smith. Wow. Again, very much of his era. And here we've got Ron Yates as well. Another great player. This is just before the Keegan era. So Liverpool were a very good team. They were always thereabout. And once all the pieces fitted together and they got the right players, then that was it. They started to dominate, as they did, didn't they, so well. This is just before that era, but they were a very good team and still always in contention. But they just elevated themselves with Keegan and all that era. Then we've got Man City. Now, Man City, I always remember as one player for them stuck out. They were one of these teams overshadowed by United. But the player they had was Francis Lee, which I'm looking for on here. He should be on here. There he is. Francis Lee. He was their player. He was a fantastic player. He's another one, sadly, no longer with us. He was absolutely fantastic. I always remember. And Colin Bell. Yeah, Colin Bell should give a mention to. What a great player he was. Oh, and one more, Mike Summerby. Yeah. But they never quite got there. But their time would come, as we know. It has been. And then, of course, there's another team that you can't ignore, I suppose, even if it is them. It's Man United. Yes, I know. Man United, but they had one of the greatest players ever in this era. There he is, George Best. Fantastic player. Then other players that stand out, Pat Crerand, a great player, Scottish. Brian Kidd, yeah. Brian Kidd, he was a good striker, very good striker, with Dennis Law. Look at Dennis Law there. So that is a great lineup. Oh, I've got to mention other people, of course. Nobby Stiles. What a great player for England. But, I mean, what can you say? Oh, how could I miss him out? Bobby Charlton. One of the all-time greatest players ever. Again, hey, you have to say that about him because he was so good for England. Absolutely. And we've got Newcastle United. Newcastle United were an interesting team in this era. They were a team, again, that had a lot of promise and never quite fulfilled it. They were waiting, in a way, to get the right combination. They were always going to be in there in the first division most of the time, though they did have some periods where they did go down. But this era, we've got, let's have a look at Newcastle players. We have got that stand out. I'm just looking for outstanding players. We've got Brian Robson before his move to Manchester United. Yeah, you see what I mean? If they had really talented players, they were taken over by the other clubs. Bobby Moncur, yeah. Now, Bobby Moncur, I remember, as a good Newcastle player. Very good. I think those are the ones that... Oh, here's one little bit of here. We've got a player called Frank Clark who played for Newcastle. Now, I remember him as manager of Nottingham Forest. Yeah. So there you are. Then, speak of the devil, it's Nottingham Forest. Yeah, there we are. Again, this is before the Clough era, so when Forest became big under Brian Clough. Players I remember that stand out, I'm looking for him, where is he? Yeah, Terry Hennessy. Terry Hennessy, great player for Forest. Forest were a team that was always in the sort of first division, but they didn't win anything much. So, they were a good team. They never went down much, I don't think, as I remember. But yeah, Clough was to change everything massively for Forest when he became manager. And then Sheffield Wednesday, a team that you probably, if you nowadays thinking, crikey, were they in the first division? Yeah, one time Sheffield Wednesday were much bigger than Sheffield United. They were the Sheffield club, yeah. And they had a lot of interesting players. I'm trying to think, have we got any here that I can remember that are outstanding? I remember, I mean, they weren't sort of household names. I know Peter Eustace was a good player for them. I think I mean, looking at them, they're not sort of outstanding names. I just remember the name and that's it. But they kept in the first division. There they were. And their better times never quite came. Sheffield Wednesday, a team that had been big in the past, I think, going back into 50s and, earlier, much earlier. And, of course, they've not come back into the first division for a long time. They've been near, but haven't. And Sheffield United have taken over as the dominant club at Sheffield. Another team that was always in the first division for a long time was Southampton. And then they started going down and then up and down. But I think I remember when they got Mike Shannon, they did very well. And also they won the FA Cup, and that was massive for them. But in this area, it's just before all that. I'm trying to think. Yeah, look, Mike Shannon is there. So, yeah, I think he stayed at the club. He was a very loyal player to the club. And yeah, it was a great moment for them when they won that FA Cup. Absolutely fantastic for them. A team that had said, "I never won anything," and there they were. They won the FA Cup. That's the magic of the FA Cup. Another team, Stoke City. I bet you're thinking, Stoke City? What are they doing there? Well, one time Stoke City were quite a good First Division team. Yeah, their star player was the goalkeeper. You know who that was? Gordon Banks, England player. Of course, World Cup, Gordon Banks. What can you say? Absolutely fantastic player Gordon Banks was. Who can forget the 1970 World Cup where he saves? Oh, fantastic. England nearly won it. They did. They should have won it. But Germany, anyhow, that's a story. Wouldn't that have been great if we'd have won it in 1970? But anyways, the team was just as good as the 1966 team. Some people even have argued that it was better, but you know what happened. Oh yeah. Anyhow, that was Stoke City. So they were a good First Division team. Yeah. Then we've got another team from the northeast, Sunderland. Sunderland are an interesting team. They were one that never seemed to particularly win anything. They were up and down a bit. I'm trying to look here if there's any players that I can remember that were outstanding at the time. There's Colin Todd here, who goes on to bigger things. We've got, Dennis Stewart. He went to Man City, I think. Yeah, so it was one of these clubs, the best players, off they went. But they'd survived, and then they went down, and then up, and it was all that. And then the next team's another interesting team, Tottenham Hotspur, past glories. That's what you always used to think about Tottenham in this era. They never quite were able to perform consistently in the First Division to win it. But they were a good cup team. They were an excellent cup team. And they had some great players. They had people like Martin Shivers, excellent player. They had Mike England, another great player. They had, look, it's got Jimmy Greaves here. Now, Jimmy Greaves was still playing. Jimmy Greaves is one of the greatest footballers that we've produced as well. An absolute legend, Jimmy Greaves was. Pat Jennings, of course, great goalkeeper, legendary goalkeeper. Amazing. Oh, and Alan Mullery. I've got to mention him. There he is, Alan Mullery. So Spurs had a lot of good players, but they didn't win the championship. You know, they never became champions. Yeah, it's all right. When I say champion, see how you get mixed up with the terms. They never became champions. If you say championship, you're thinking, championship. No, it's not. Different. Let's see how things go. Yes, I know I'm getting confused. Anyhow, West Brom. West Brom were always consistent. They were a team and that go up and down. And there they are. Their great player was Jeff Astle. Great England player. Sadly, he's one of these players who they believed got dementia and died through heading the ball. And his wife is a particular campaigner, and I think his family, his daughter, I think has carried on. There's a big thing about heading the ball, and in those days as well, sometimes you had the ball with the laces on. You know, I don't know if any of you remember that, but it was a blooming hard ball, and they think it affected him certainly in his health, and the dementia. And it's very sad. He was a great player. So that's West Bromwich Albion. And then West Ham, of course. We always think with West Ham in that era, a great team, flair, but they didn't win the much. Apart from maybe the cups was the thing you saw with them. They weren't going to be champions. They weren't going to be champions, but that's great players. Look at this. They had Billy Bonds. Billy Bonds there. They had, of course, where is it? There he is, Bobby Moore. Bobby Moore, one of the greatest players ever, again, playing for West Ham. And, of course, we got here Jeff Hurst, World Cup hero, and Martin Peters. I mean, this had a lot of flair as a team, West Ham. And they still have that reputation of being a team with a lot of flair. And I think we're near the end now. I think we've got one more team to look at. Yes, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolverhampton Wanderers, I always thought straight away, Derek Dougan in this era. That's it. And he's here. Derek Dougan, Irish man, absolutely brilliant player. And Wolves were a team that you knew were always going to be there, consistent in the first division. And eventually, of course, they did go down. Found it, I think, difficult to get back up. But they were a very good team for consistency of staying up, really. You knew you were in for a good game. And when you had somebody like Derek Dougan, they were capable of getting some surprising results against teams I think thought they would beat them. I just remember them as being a team that you had to be careful of, but they were good. And I say Derek Dougan is the outstanding player. Yes. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. I finished. So that's the back of the say. I've shown you that. I hope you've enjoyed looking at that, and you're probably thinking, "Oh God, what's he going on about all the time?" Yes, but it's good to look at seeing that. Absolutely loved it. It brought back so many memories, and if you're a football fan, you're probably going, "Huh? Yeah, right, there you are." Anyhow, so I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, because then you can have a look in the playlists that I do, and you'll get notified when I produce these videos. You get notification that I've produced one, so you have a look. But I say, have a look in the playlist as well, and you might find things that you might enjoy. I do a lot of film reviews, TV shows, and also sometimes a bit of music as well. So if you like this video as well, please give this video a like. If you give it a like, it gets out onto YouTube where other people might enjoy it. It's good for the channel. And if you've got any comments as well, please put your comments down. I love to read your comments. And that's it. I say I've gone on far too long. So all I'm going to say is, I'll see you again.